Welcome to episode 220 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the month of May Buildup edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew, and I'm your host, and I'm wearing my Chase Briscoe shirt because it doesn't come out all that often since we haven't had a whole lot to root for. Last year, definitely, but definitely had something to root for yesterday. And I'm with my co-host, the iRacing Indy 500 champion, computer genius, a gentleman and a scholar. His name is Josh Fine. What's going on, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great, Phil. Of course, another week of racing here on the show. But episode 220, what an appropriate number for the month of May here as we are full on into Indianapolis 500 preparation with practice and qualifying this upcoming week and weekend. So what a great time it is, as always, the month of May here around the world, focusing on Indianapolis and the 500. I got my Cadillac racing shirt, which I got at the Rolex 24. So I think they finished second, which we'll bring up later probably, but at the Monterey Grand Prix at Laguna Seca this past weekend. So good result there for any Cadillac fans out there. So ready to get into it, of course, with all the things we have to talk about.
Yeah, I got a busy show. We're leading up to one of our traditions, not just the Masters episode, but the tradition, unlike any other for us, is the greatest day in motorsports. And getting called to go and talk about Indy by other places, but also for here. The greatest time to be a racing fans right now because of all the motorsports that are going on, but it all culminates on Memorial Day weekend with three of the biggest races in the world all taking place on one day. So that's our lead up here over the next couple of weeks, and this weekend definitely had its fair share of action at Indianapolis. They started the month of May with the road course, and hello Pillow showed once again why he is one of the best guys in IndyCar, and won in a strategic battle over the likes of Winch Power and Christian Lundgaard, who was my wild card selection last week. So I'll pat myself on the back for actually getting something right. We'll talk about the Indy Sonsio Grand Prix, whatever, all the points and key players and the like at a racetrack and a race that is basically a procession every time they race there. We go to throwback weekend, and I don't know what nickname that Mike Joy was calling Brad. I've never heard it before. At that point, it confused me. Might as well just call him Baba Booey. It would have made more sense since that's what I call him, and he kind of looks like Baba Booey. But Brad Keselowski driving a Japanese GT championship throwback Castrol paint scheme benefits from the argy-bargy between Tyler Reddick with a Dale Earnhardt mustache going full Dale Earnhardt and failing into Christopher Buescher, and Brad Keselowski ending a 110 race winless streak. Ford finally winning in the 13th race of the season, first win in all three major series of the year. So a lot going on there. We'll talk about the post-race with Buescher and Reddick. We'll get into other key storylines like Stewart-Haas actually doing well, which doesn't seem to happen all that often. So Josh Berry and Chase Briscoe finishing in the top 5, which is definitely a good thing for us as Stewart-Haas racing fans, for me at least. We'll get into the points leading into the All-Star Race in North Wilkesboro and what we think about that. In the Xfinity Series, Justin Allgaier dominated. We'll talk about that. They have a couple weeks off before they go to Charlotte. And the trucks will be coming back this weekend at North Wilkesboro, but Ross Chastain went out there and won at the track that basically made his career. All those years ago when he drove a Ganassi Xfinity car and pissed Kevin Harvick off. And now he's a regular championship contending driver who's now got Kevin Harvick's sponsor. So, pretty interesting how that all works out. We'll talk about all three major series there. And then we'll talk about the news of the day, which is the NASCAR in-season tournament that will take place on the TNT Amazon summer package next year, with Junior being a big part of as an announcer. Denny Hamlin and many others had a similar idea, but I'm sure none of them are going to get any money for it. We'll give our initial thoughts on that. A busy GSP roundup. We'll mention the IMSA race at Laguna Seca, as Josh talked about with Cadillac. It was a late battle, fell short, but it was an interesting weekend for the Ganassi Cadillac team and for the Wheel and Engineering team as well, Action Express, who will also be going to Le Mans in a month's time. We'll get into all that. For IMSA, the WEC was at Spa and a first-time winner, but the big-time result there in the hypercar category. MotoGP at Le Mans saw a battle amongst Ducatis. What a shocker. Moto2, Joe Roberts gets another top 5 finish, but loses the points lead, but he's still up there. We'll talk about Formula E, their doubleheader at Berlin, Rally Portugal, Indy next, and then preview supercars at Perth and the F2 and F3 at Imola as a lead into the San Marino Grand Prix preview. I refuse to call it by the atrocity that they do call it now, because of the stupidity of whoever. I don't know who came up with the idea of naming these races. That person should be fired. They're probably overpaid and probably just as useless as Michael Massey was. But, they come up with some ridiculous name, and it's like, just call it the San Marino Grand Prix. That's what it is, with whatever sponsor you want to come up with that particular day. That's what we're calling it here. We'll preview, make our picks, and who will finish behind Fish Lips, since he's probably going to win, since every race since 21 there he's won. So we'll get into that. Indy 500 practice, as Josh mentioned, will take place this week. They only give them 4 days or 5, I guess. I don't even know if they get a warm-up on Saturday, but it doesn't really count as like a actual practice. It's too short, really. It's like a 30-minute practice. It used to be different, of course, back in the heyday when they had the whole month, but they only have 4 days. It sounds like rain's going to be a problem the first day, so they're going to have even less time on track. Who do we look at as contenders for the front row? Who do we look at to be in the last row shootout? And, of course, the biggest one, who's going home? Last year it was Green Rehal, in tears, holding his daughters and being consoled by his wife, Courtney Force, after Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan cannibalized themselves in that last row shootout. And then I'm forgetting who the other car was. I feel like it was like a Dale Coyne car. But it could have, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I feel like it's a Dale Coyne car. But now all that happened. Jack Harvey was getting fired, and he knocked his buddy and basically car owner out of the race, akin to what happened to Bobby Rahal 30 years before in the Indianapolis 500 on qualifying, the last qualifying day, qualifying his own the chassis. What was it? I forget what the True Sports chassis that he had bought. They were trying to run that. It was terrible at Phoenix. Then at Long Beach, he finished on the podium. And then I forget whatever, if there was a race in between that and Indianapolis. But then at Indianapolis, tried to make the show with that car and wasn't able to, got knocked out by Eddie Cheever. So you'll see if there will be another epic story like that. It is Indianapolis. So, and NASCAR Trucks and Cup All-Star Race at North Wilkesboro. We'll preview those races. We'll make our picks and who gets the fan vote. So we'll make the picks for who advances out of the Open. So getting into that, Josh will let us know all things going on iRacing and gaming in a sim segment, and then we'll call it a day. So yeah, let's start with the IndyCar race at the IMS road course, the Sonsio Grand Prix. And as I mentioned, Hello Palo getting the pole on Friday and then winning the race over Winch Power. It was a battle between those guys. It was those two and Christian Lundgaard, and those are the three that finished on the podium. You had we'll get into the results here. Alex Palou started on pole, finished and won. Will Power finished second after starting third, and Lundgaard started second and finished third. Scott Dixon fourth, Marcus Armstrong fifth, so giving Ganassi 3 of the top 5. Scott McLaughlin sixth, giving Penske 2 of the top 6. Colton Hurd, Alexander Rossi, Graham Rahal, and Felix Rosenquist continuing his strong start to 2024. Colton Herta came from 24th to finish 7th, and McLaughlin 13th to 6th. So those are the two movers. We'll get through some of these other guys. Grosjean, who was getting an argy-bargy with Santino Ferrucci, who is an idiot stick. But, Romain Grosjean also is a dart without feathers, so it kind of makes sense they're getting into each other. Pato O'Ward had an engine issue in warm-up, and then even though he started 5th, fell back, so rough day for the guy who was credited with the win at St. Petersburg. Joseph Newgarden started 4th and dropped anchor, finished 17th. So the last, the race at Barber, which is one of his best racetracks, and then this race here, definitely off. Wonder how that if it'll carry over into his defense of the Indianapolis 500 after winning there. Marcus Ericsson, who's still not happy about the rules that they have for the end of the race in the Indy 500, the 2022 winner of that race, finished right ahead of Newgarden. Teo Porcher, or Teddy Porkchops, as he's affectionately known as, finished 19th. He'll take the Indy 500 off and then proceed to race the rest of the year. Rasmussen, last car on the lead lap. So Palou led the most laps. Basically, it was him and Lundgaard that led the majority of the race. There was only one caution for Luca Giotto spinning out there. So it was a typical race on the road course, IMS road course, because there really isn't a whole lot of theoretical action spots unless it's a restart. So when you only have like two actual start or a start and a restart the whole entire day, you're not really going to have a whole lot because the track is Formula One Tier 1, so it's going to become a procession, and that's what happened. If they used the old Formula One circuit and ran through Indy Turn 1 wide open, which I don't think they want to do because of obvious reasons, but that would probably help. I think if they would probably, and I saw it, I forget who I saw it with on the socials, that if they just made it back to the original course that they used with that little Mickey Mouse corner there, and then they had the left, right, left chicane, that might help a little bit. I don't know, but it's not exactly the most challenging course. It's flat and featureless. There is hard braking zones, but really it's not. You really have one or two passing zones at most on the racetrack, and then once they spread out, it's very hard to follow. So in the end, though, Alex Palou gets the victory and takes the points lead by 12 over Power in going into the Indianapolis 500. And Palou has done a lot in these last 3 years, ever since he's came to IndyCar, really. But over the 2 years he's won championships, he's established himself as somebody who has the ability and has the opportunity, being that he's at Ganassi, to possibly reset some records. And the one thing that's missing from his resume is an oval victory. And if there's one oval victory that you want in IndyCar, it's the one that's coming up in a couple weeks' time. And Palou set new 1 and 4 lap track records last year in qualifying, probably had the car to beat, had an issue on pit road, had to come back and made it back to 4th. But he wants a chance to get that Indianapolis 500 victory for Chip Ganassi Racing, and going out there and winning this past weekend doesn't hurt those chances at all there, right, Josh?
Absolutely, and I think, for Palou, this is starting off exactly how he started off last year in the month of May, by winning the Indianapolis Road Course Grand Prix first, and then he went on to win the pole at Indianapolis, and now wasn't able to finish the job by getting the triple, I guess not triple crown, but certainly getting kind of the grand slam for the month of May in the Indianapolis 500 last year. And so now this year, with what he was able to do on Sunday or on Saturday, be able to win this race. Now with how strong Penske, or with Ganassi cars, but with Ganassi cars at Indianapolis, especially in qualifying trim, has another chance to go get that pole and then win the Indianapolis 500 potentially. So starting off exactly where he wants to here. So, and he took the points lead as well. So that, which is, I think, is icing on the cake for him. So yeah, very good effort there at the road course. Yeah, like you said, not very much in features for the road course. There's only 2 passing zones: the first turn, and then the turn after the backstretch straight there. That's really only 2 passing opportunities you have, and I would like to see them open it up on the banking, but that probably would put in extra wear onto the tires more than likely for Firestone to be able to handle. We've seen that controversy already before, but in Formula One many years ago. But this race, is very strategic, with Palou basically just trading the lead throughout the race with Christian Lundgaard, and other guys had opportunities to lead laps. We saw Scott Dixon lead a lap. Marcus Armstrong led a handful of laps. McLaughlin led a handful of laps. Alexander Rossi stayed out and led a lap. Graham Rahal got a lap led in. So plenty of guys led laps, but this is really just a battle between Lundgaard and Palou. So not too much, in terms of action really, except for, in the back of the pack. We saw, of course, Santino Ferrucci was kind of the story there throughout the weekend with how I guess defiant he was in his racecraft, and saying he's basically saying he's not here to make friends, which is a very interesting position to take. Certainly polarizing. I'll say that he's a very polarizing figure in this series, but I guess it's all for naught because he finished last, mechanical failure there. So maybe Romain Grosjean won that rivalry of the day with finishing in 12th place versus Santino not finishing the race. But obviously that was the real argy-bargy highlight there in the race and also in warm-up, and probably in practice as well. But you have that, and then also started the race was pretty wild as well with Colton Herta and teammate Marcus Ericsson also getting into it as well. So, and he had some comments there for him. Colton did for Marcus Ericsson there. So, yeah, plenty of stuff kind of at the beginning of the race. And yeah, there's only really time that stuff happened. Otherwise, yeah, it was mostly a strategic type race, and no real challenge for Palou. Willpower at the end kind of had an opportunity, but he didn't have good tires to be able to hang on to the gap that Palou had, and wasn't able to make up any ground and started to even fall back towards Christian Lundgaard there at the end. So yeah, this is just a typical race, but I mean obviously it is the kind of the lead on to the month of May and festivities, and of course kind of gives in terms of the star power and who we could possibly look at for who might be able to win at the Indianapolis 500. Of course, I think Alex Palou is at the top of this list because of his victory here, and how good he is in this car. And like you said, hasn't had an oval win yet. So what better way to open up the oval wins with the win at Indianapolis potentially? So that's, I think, what he's looking forward to most, of course. And of course, now he has a family and everything. So what better way to add to the early family memories than by winning a Indianapolis 500?
Yeah, I mean that we've seen it over the years with Al Unser Jr. when he won with his kids. You think about some of the other, Tony Kanaan, more recently. Trying to go through some of them, but it's hard to remember them at the moment. But having a family, it makes such a big difference. I mean, you saw how Dario Franchitti over the years, while he was still with Ashley Judd, they didn't have any kids. Now he does, but how much it means. And so for Alex Palou, has done a lot in this series over the last 3 years, and now trying to get that crown jewel. It's something that was all hanging over the head of Newgarden, and he finally gets it. He's got bigger problems to deal with other than that now, but for Alex Palou, his teammate Scott Dixon, arguably the greatest IndyCar driver of all time, he's only won this race once. Granted, he's had a few opportunities to win it again, but it's one of the hardest races to win. And it's just like the Daytona 500. It's like Monaco for a reason, If you win it, you're in the elite of the elite. If you don't win it, it doesn't mean you've had a terrible career, depending on who you are, like Michael Andretti. But, that's just that one thing that's missing, like Tony Stewart. Same thing for him. But you want to get this race win, and these days, the way the cars are and whatever, it's very fuel dependent. So we'll see how it all works out. We'll preview Indianapolis 500 qualifying here in a little bit. As I mentioned the points, I mentioned the top 2 or 3 in points. Colton Herta 4th and Rosenquist in 5th. 6th is Scott McLaughlin. 7th is Pato O'Ward. 8th is Kyle Kirkwood. 9th is Christian Lundgaard after getting a podium. And the top 10's rounded out by Alexander Rossi. So that's it for IMS for the road course, and we'll move forward into the NASCAR throwback weekend at Darlington. Weren't able to get all the paint schemes and all that last week when we were on, unfortunately, but it looks let's go here and look at the weekend here. Do they have the paint schemes? Yeah, they do. Okay. So I mean, we can kind of do a brief like takeaway of the paint schemes that were throwbacks versus ones that weren't. I mean, I think the one that everybody was talking about from the jump was the Kellogg's Cornflakes Hendrick car with Larson. Texas Terry came back, was wearing the uniform. They got Texas Terry to sort of call a stage, which I don't know how many words he really got in. We had Josh Berry throwing back to his crew chief, Rodney Childers. He had the gold and black Bass Pro Shops car, which is a throwback to Earnhardt at the All-Star Race. The Busch Light car for Chastain, I guess, is from a few years ago with whatever their design was for the can. Gumby didn't have a throwback. We mentioned Brad Keselowski. Corey LaJoie threw back to himself. No throwback for Kyle Busch. William Clyde Elliott II throwing back to Junior. They could have done a little better with it, though, I think. Nothing for Gagson or Hamlin or Blaney. Chase Briscoe throwing back to his dad and his grandfather, and their sprint car paint scheme. Kaz Gralla driving a Bud Moore Parnelli Jones throwback there, so that's cool. Trans Am car. Kraus, no. Same for Christopher Buescher. They're saying it is a throwback for auto owners insurance. I would have never known that, but they're saying it's a throwback to when he won the Southern 500 a few years ago. So I guess so. It wasn't impressive by any means. One that definitely was a fail was Chris Bell. I said it, they could have run any number of paint schemes from Matt Kenseth. Like, you could have run his championship scheme for all I care. Like, how many years you had Matt Kenseth in a dual car and you can't figure out one to run? That's a joke. But Gibbs basically mailed it in, but that's usually what they do. The Glenwood throwback for Harrison Burton. I thought that Joey Logano was supposed to have a throwback scheme, but I guess they backed out of that. Nothing for Bubba. When it comes to the 24 car, it's almost like a mail-in. It's either going to be some rainbow car, it's going to be a flame car, one of his paint schemes from an all-star race. They usually don't get it completely right either, and they didn't with the transitions on the paint, especially on the front end. So whatever, William Byron's a cuck anyways. Hemrick, no. The McDowell car is a throwback for the sponsor itself back to their old logos. So credit on that. Todd Gilliland throwing back to himself. The mods, late models. I'm forgetting Ryan Preece's throwback. It's got to have something to do with the modifieds, of course. The Eric Jones one probably has something to do with Richard Petty and his convertible, maybe. I don't know. I apologize for that. John Hunter had one, I think, some sort of other, petty throwback, but he destroyed the race car. Tyler Reddick had a reach to go and find something with Tim Richmond. But good execution, good usage of simple scheme, and it worked well with Money Lion, so credit to that, and he had a fast race car. Richard didn't throw back to anything. The Hendrick with another easy one. The Ally, you just changing lows to Ally, and honestly, they could. Mike Joy had a great idea. Basically, change the blue into a purple and run that paint scheme, and it would be great, and that would probably be a better look. And I agree. To be fair, I didn't like it when Jimmy Johnson was winning in it every other week, it seemed, but it was cool to see it again on the racetrack. No throwback for Justin Haley or Keebler Gibbs. Zane Smith, before he destroyed it, threw back to the K&K Insurance car of Bobby Isaac and Dave Marcus back in the day. The 77 was just essentially a cop car. Two cop cars are out there. And then Nacho Libre threw back to his hero Adrian Fernandez and his first IRL car with the Quaker State paint scheme that he had there. All right, so we'll go to the Goodyear 400. The race results, as you mentioned, Brad Keselowski breaking 110 race winless streak. Beneficiary of the incident that took Tyler Reddick and Chris Buescher out there. Brad Keselowski finished third and second in the stages, led 37 laps, gets the win, of course, locks himself into the playoffs. Keebler Gibbs started fourth, finished second and third, stage 1 and 2 respectively, led one time for 34 laps, and gets a second place finish, probably, I think, tying his best finish of his career, no pun intended. Josh Berry started 33rd and finished third in Harrison's Ford. Dennis Hamlin, who's won at Darlington many times, finished fourth. Chase Briscoe started 13th and finished fifth in his Mahindra car. William Byron, who was involved in an incident with his future brother-in-law, which we probably have to talk about there too, making it 3 wide on a restart, which was pretty idiotic. Finished 6th. Bubba 7th. Bowman 8th. Justin Haley finished 9th after starting 28th in the 51 car. And McDowell, a few days after making the announcement that he's going to go to Spire Motorsports next year to take over the 71 car, on a multi-year deal. First race after that gets a top 10 finish. Chastain finished 11th. Clyde 12th. He started 31st. Christopher Bell finished 13th after what it was basically a terrible day for him. Gagson started dead last and finished 14th. How many cars were on the lead lap? In the end, 28 of the race's 36 starters were on the lead lap. The people that were laps down or had issues, Kraus, Busher, and Reddick, we know that. John Hunter hit the wall or whatever, and they had to repair his car. I think it was a toe link or whatever. Thought it was worse than that, but I'm probably mixing it up with Zane Smith because they were both red cars. Hemrick, I'm not sure what happened to him. He was 3 laps down. Larson had one stage 1, led 15 laps, but then proceeded to have issues and spun out multiple times, leading into him fencing it on lap 255 to knock himself out of contention there. Zane Smith nosed it into the fence pretty hard, got knocked out, and then, as I mentioned, Ryan Blaney was the unfortunate innocent bystander in William Byron's idiotic restart move. But we have to start with Brad Keselowski, Josh. I mean, for RFK, for him to leave Penske, which he had, in a lot of ways, he had built around that. He got Joey Logano over there, brought the 2-car back to prominence, with the days of Rusty Wallace, Kurt Busch had moments, but it wasn't as big of a deal, that 2-car. But Brad was a factor, and he won one championship, probably should have won more than one for them, and didn't get the 500, but he won every other race, big race for them. And he took this risk joining forces with Jack Roush and the Fenway group, and they were not good. Initially it was pretty bad, but over time they have built they're building a great team, and frankly can make an argument they're the best Ford team out there right now. And on a weekend that the Fords actually looked good and actually had a chance, the RFK cars stood tall and stood up the best, and he was up there all day. It wasn't a accident that he was up there. He had a fast race car, and Busher got a good pit stop there late, and then good restart. Or actually, it was a battle between Keselowski and Reddick, which basically was a precursor to what ended up happening. Busher goes and takes a 3 wide coming off of turn 4. Great pass. Clears both of them, takes the lead and gets away. But, the way this season has gone for Ford, the new Dark Horse Mustang has not been what the doctor ordered for them to be competitive, so to speak. But the RFK duo seems to be making a positive turn, and and it looks like they are the lead dog right now for Ford at the moment. Going back to the early 2000s when Roush was a dominant presence in NASCAR. But for Brad Keselowski, 110 race winless streak is over. It was at the he was a beneficiary of an incident that took out his teammate, but in the grand scheme of things, RFK is back in victory lane, and Brad Keselowski brings the 6 car back to victory lane for the first time since David Reagan at Daytona in 2011. So it was a huge day for that organization and huge day for Brad as well.
Yeah, very huge day for Brad Keselowski. Finally, the investment that he made late 2021 to take over and grab a share of Roush Fenway Racing at the time and add his name to that. This, finally paid off in a victory for him here at Darlington, of course. But I mean, for me personally, I thought after he made that move that honestly, I wasn't even sure if he'd ever win again, maybe outside of his super speedway race. I mean, outside of that, I wasn't sure if he would ever want to get in one of these cars. But 2022, they were still facing growing pains, but slowly but surely, as a organization, they began to pick up steam. We saw Chris Buescher have success in 2022 and 2023, and then Brad Keselowski last year began to have better results over time, and we saw that there was still ability in that car for them to be able to run up front, and slowly he's been able to put something together where they could run up front and be in contention for wins. Now finally this year, Brad Keselowski gets his win in the number 6 car. And throwback team, which is ironic because it's a Toyota supercar, and putting it on a Ford, kind of interesting there. But still, it's more of a throwback for the sponsor, but still well done throwback there. But was in position for the win there with his teammate Chris Buescher and Tyler Reddick, former BKR driver, by the way, getting in it as well late in the going there with 6 laps to go, and of course Brad was already ran up front. Was fighting hard with Tyler Reddick with about 34 to go, which opened the door for Chris Buescher to take the lead there. So for Brad, this is a very good opportunity for him. Of course, he's been a past winner at Darlington as well, so it fits for him. Also, the fact that this is a type of race that he could have won at anyways with this track and this car. The tire package, I think it very, very much fit him for this race. So, they ran up front all weekend. So, well-deserved win for him. Of course, very throwback type finish, of course, kind of reminds you of some old finishes like, 1986 at Richmond when Dale Earnhardt and Darrell Waltrip got into it late and took each other out. And that opened the door for Kyle Petty in a Ford to win. And now Brad Keselowski here in 2024 in his Ford with Tyler Reddick in his Muzzy and Chris Buescher getting into it. And now Keselowski gets his win. So, for Keselowski, great win for him. Of course, it also, on the other hand, sucks for Chris Buescher. Of course, very emotional still about what happened to him last week at Kansas, and then this week getting taken out by Tyler Reddick. Although, of course, when you have a grown man talking about not having a sticker on his car, it does seem a bit childish there. So maybe a bit overblown on that. But of course, a win is a win, and it enables Reddick to try and do stupid moves like what he did in turn 3 and 4 and take out Chris Buescher there for the win. Although I think if he would have been more patient, I think Chris Buescher's handling was going away late, as you could see him struggling trying to cover the spots and aero block in the turns compared to how Tyler Reddick was handling late in the going there. But great battle throughout the day for those 3 cars, kind of the class of the field. I think being able to run up front the whole day and get the win for Keselowski. So very typical Darlington race in terms of it being harder to pass, and of course with this car very much amplifies that it's even harder to pass. But still we saw things happen up front, and we still saw kind of a classic finish there at the end. So very, very throwback race when it counted there at the end. But I liked how there were still some teams that did the throwback. Of course, Kyle Larson I think had the best throwback there, and at least the throwback car won. But I think a lot of these teams that didn't run a throwback scheme, really unfortunate they didn't. Guess the concept is maybe kind of going away, or or having less sponsors that don't have anything to throw back to. But I think in the end everybody should put in an effort. But at least we saw a very compelling race there yesterday on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean Gibbs over the years has done a poor job. I mean, Hamlin, this is one of the first times I could think of that Hamlin hasn't had a throwback, but usually he has sport clips. I guess he'll have sport clips in September, but They should just have it the other way around. But I know Truex has kind of mailed it in over the years, and the 20 car has been hit or miss. When they had Eric Jones, they seemed to have some schemes, but since they put Chris Bell in the car, it doesn't seem as much. And then Keebler, whatever, fuck him. He gets us, all right. He gets how you have a lame paint scheme for all the money that those bastards have. But yeah, like Hendrick, at least they've got all these iconic schemes. They ended up basically they got it right with Larson. It's hard to screw up the Jimmy Johnson scheme. And then the Jeff Gordon one, I've already seen that I don't know how many times. So I mean, and the point is you just have a fucking cake eater driving it. But that was one piece. I mean, the Reddick incident, I mean, they mentioned this, and it's interesting. Chase Briscoe went and cleaned Tyler Reddick out at Bristol in 2022 in an absolute complete fail mission to try and win that race on the dirt. And cost Reddick a chance at his first career victory at that point. It had similar feelings and thoughts there. But what is it? Briscoe went and walked down and, probably would have gotten nut punched because it's Tyler Reddick. But he went and they talked it out and he handled it pretty well. Busher was emotional and so was Reddick, but I gotta say that both guys handled it pretty good. I think for what it was, I mean, who knows? Maybe Busher will send Reddick during the All-Star race. I don't know. Like he'll send him at some point later in the year. But I think that emotion, that real, like what it means to actually win a race. I mean, it means a lot to win a race in the Cup Series, let alone winning at Darlington. But Busher was definitely pissed, and he had a right to be, and Tyler Reddick agreed. I mean, I don't know what was the bigger fail, that move attempt or his Tim Richmond porn stash that not only did his fiance was mortified by, his own son basically said it was god awful. So, I mean, he probably should have gotten some wrestling moves and chair shots from Bo for that horrible mustache, but I mean, they ran fast most of the weekend, so who knows? If he had won, I think he was keeping the mustache. So now that he did what he did, I'm pretty sure he's going to get rid of it. So there was that incident. The William Byron one is another one, Josh, that we have to look at, because the irony in all of it is he's the significant other of Ryan Blaney's sister, Erin, and they're engaged to be married. And William Byron has had instances of brain fade, and it seems to happen a lot around Blaney, the defending series champion. So there's a couple of dynamics. One, of course, being rivals on the racetrack. Two, essentially being family. You can't let family get in the way, and we've seen it over the years. I mean, the Bodine brothers ran over each other at Indianapolis, and then didn't talk for I don't know how many, for a year, I think, or something. Then you have other instances of a family running over each other. But do we see anything with that? The Blaney says Byron has one coming, but Blaney is a lot like, and they said this on the morning drive actually, that he's a lot like Truex, and that he'll say something, but in the end, there's really not an execution in terms of actually going out there on the racetrack and using the car as a weapon. Because like Truex, Blaney was brought up in racing. His dad is a legendary sprint car driver. His grandfather was. His uncle is. So, I mean, he understood the value of a car and what it costs and all these things, and who knows what will come of it. But do you see anything coming of that incident in the future?
No, I don't think so. I think Blaney's just one of those drivers that kind of gets a little emotional in the car when people don't race him the way he feels like he should be raced. You know, you kind of saw it last year with him battling Ross Chastain for the lead while he was in the lead for the championship, and you saw him try to give a couple of shots to Ross Chastain there, and you know, calling him stuff in the car, and you know, we saw him get emotional with Denny Hamlin last year at Homestead late in the going when they were battling each other, and then Hamlin wrecked, and you know, Blaney had his comments there. So I feel like this is more of a one-time thing. Maybe not. Maybe they have something going, but I think considering their mutual connection there with his sister for Blaney, I think probably blow over pretty quickly for the most part. So I don't think anything will really come out of that. It could, but I doubt it. But I mean, yeah, Blaney or you know is mostly a calm guy. I mean, it is interesting to see him get fired up like that in the car, but I guess the right type of incident will do it for you. Plus, you know, he hasn't really. I mean, he's run okay out of it. He's running probably the best out of the Penske cars, but certainly hasn't had a real shot at winning so far this year for the most part. So that's probably adding on to the frustration, especially trying to follow up his championship there. But Byron, I mean, of course, kind of runs like that anyways. So making, you know, stupid moves and stuff and everything like that. So didn't get, you know, the finish that he wanted either in this race, of course. But I mean, I think both of them probably move on from this pretty quickly. Of course, got the All-Star Race coming up here. Maybe they get into it. We'll see. But I don't think after, you know, throughout the summer, I don't think anything will come of it. But it does make for an interesting storyline throughout the week. And, you know, throughout the next couple of weeks, maybe we see they'll definitely focus on it throughout the summer if they're near each other and talk about it. But, you know, again, I don't think anything will come of it after, you know, after this week at Darlington and the All-Star Race in North Wilkesboro.
Yeah, you're probably right on that, but it's nice to come up with a story and a controversy and whatever because of the racing product that we have at times. So apologies from me for my cashew eating, but I'm hungry. I went back to the gym for the first time in a while, so I'm hungry. And it's my show, so whatever. We'll talk about the points here. Overall points leader, Larson, even with his issues yesterday, has a 30-point lead on, Truex. I think it's a 39-point lead. Yeah, 39 on Hamlin, 49 on Clyde. And that's basically the people that are really in the mix. Those are under the one race, like the absolute maximum total you can get in one race. Byron has 3 wins. He's essentially second in points to Denny Hamlin based on the playoff standings. Larson third, Clyde fourth, Tyler Reddick, Brad Keselowski moves up to 6th. Christopher Bell, Daniel Suarez, who's 19th in points, but because of his win, is in. Truex, Gibbs, Blaney, Bowman. The Gibbs is kind of in his own area. Blaney, Bowman, and Ross Chastain are all closely packed, like 13 points there. Then you have Busher, Kyle Busch, Briscoe, Bubba Wallace. They're all those drivers are separated by 15 points. So the Christopher Bell, because he has a win, he's safe, but he's also in that mix too. So that's a close battle there for the cut line. You have the likes of Bubba Wallace, who is 6 points out of the cut. Joey Logano, 30 points out of the cut. And then it gets a little bit more difficult for guys like Gagson and Barry, who have had penalties and brutal starts to the year. Both of the front row motorsports cars, all of the Spire cars, both legacy cars, and 3 of the Stewart-Haas guys. So we'll see how that all works out. This coming weekend, they don't have to race for points, so see how that all works. The Xfinity Series race was the Crown Royal Purple Bag Project 200 at Darlington, and Justin Allgaier won both stages, started 7th, won both stages, led most of the race, and took his 24th career victory in the Xfinity Series, tying with his car owner, Dale Earnhardt Jr., for career victories in the Xfinity Series. Allgaier over Hill, Custer started on pole, Sam Mayer 4th, Eric Almirola 5th, Parker Kligerman 6th. You could tell me what he was throwing back to. I have no idea when I saw that car. Herbst, of course, throwing back to his family. Jesse Love, Sheldon Creed doing an Ivan Ironman Stewart Toyota throwback, which makes sense because he's an off-road guy, first and foremost. Being a protege of Robbie Gordon. And then Buckshot Jones rounding out the top 10. William Byron started tailback because of qualifying was rained out and came back to finish 11th. Chandler Smith started 2nd, but ended up having struggles being on just outside the top 10 there in 12th. Ryan Sieg finished 13th, no stage points. Alfredo was in the top 10, but only 14th. SVG in his first race at Darlington doing a Marcus Ambrose throwback, finished 15th. The only driver of note that had issues there was AJ Allmendinger, started up front and 4th because of the points, but led a lap, but got stage points, but ended up finishing 35th. Jeremy Clemens with his Alliance Driveway Solutions car had issues. So did Ryan Ellis doing the City Chevrolet throwback. I forget who Miss Summer 2.0 was throwing back to, but
He's throwing back to Dale Earnhardt.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, she destroyed the Budmore, the Wrangler throwback. Sammy Smith was an old TMC transportation. I think it probably was something to do with the sprint cars. I don't know, because I know that Sammy Swindell drove the TMC transportation sprint car for many years back in the day. Okay, yeah. So I mean, in the grand scheme, there's 5. They had only 2 cautions for cause. You had Deegan, and then what is it? The 28. So that's Kyle Sieg. Otherwise, there really weren't that many cautions. There was only 5 lead changes. Allgaier basically led from lap 26 all the way to the end. Sans, 3 laps? It was a dominant performance for Justin Allgaier, one that he needed, one that Junior Motorsports needed, and gives himself momentum heading into an off week prior to one of the bigger races of their season, which is on the Charlotte Oval.
Yeah, Justin Allgaier comes out here and wins at Darlington, which they made note of how he has been dominant in the first half of races, in the stages throughout the course of the season so far, but hadn't closed yet in 2023 on a victory. And now finally comes out here and basically runs the table on the whole event and goes out here and wins the race. So and a very heritage throwback for them. Nothing in particular, but just what if they threw back to something for Allgaier. So finally getting a win for him in Junior Motorsports, of course. Great performance for him after having come so close in everything, but not going through until now. So Allgaier gets the win. It's very uneventful race even for Darlington standards. He didn't even have that many cautions here, except for Haley Deegan and except for the 28 car Kyle Sieg. So nothing really happened there. And I was expecting Carson Kvapil. I thought maybe he would have a shot for the win, but he finished or started in I think like 13th or whatever, and never made his way up through the field like I thought he would, and ended up finishing in 19th there. So not a good performance, but of course track position matters, and we saw that with how the race ended up. Austin Hill had a good performance as well, but never really was able to challenge for the win there over Allgaier, but couldn't do it. So he goes out and gets a second place finish and adds to his points lead just barely, of course, with Cole Custer finishing right behind him and maintaining a 3-point gap over him. So Allgaier gives him a lot of confidence, of course. Last year didn't win until Charlotte, so very similar time frame for him between starting out the year and getting the first win of the year. So finally gets a win. So that adds for him. Junior Motorsports has a win for him and a win for Sam Mayer. So you got 2 Junior Motorsports cars in the win column so far this year. So looking for more, of course, for Dale Jr. So we'll see how it goes. But very typical Darlington race for sure for the Xfinity Series. And one more thing, Justin Allgaier, obviously this is probably one of his better tracks here in the Xfinity Series, of course, having won so many times over the years at Darlington. Just continues to get Darlington wins. I think this is his 3rd career win at Darlington, and last one came 2022 and one in 2021 as well. So this is obviously a very, very good track for Justin Allgaier.
Yeah, it fits his driving style, having to, save tires and be very, very gentle with the throttle. Makes sense. The dirt racer in him, dirt background, and him being able to get around that racetrack, how rough it is. Interesting, since Tyler Reddick had a similar background, and you have Larson who qualified on pole, and so there's something to that, I would say. The points, as I was looking through all the paint schemes, a lot of the teams did a throwback. A good amount of them did. So credit to most of the Xfinity field for actually trying. Different levels, different things. Hill leads the points overall and by 3 over Cole Custer, 5 over Chandler Smith. That's the battle for the regular season title. Chandler Smith has 2 wins as well, so essentially the same. Right now, Chandler Smith has 1 more playoff point because of 3 stage wins to Hill's 2. That's the NBC championship. Jesse Love and Justin Allgaier are tied. 57 points behind, and both have 1 win. Now, Allgaier already has 6 stage wins so far in 2024 through 11 starts. Herbst, 6th. Then you have Gap, which is AJ Allmendinger, Sheldon Creed, Parker Kligerman. They're all clustered together. Then Anthony Alfredo, Sam Mayer, Bruckshot Jones. In another cluster, Sammy Smith just outside of the top 12 in 12 points behind. Sieg 13 points behind. And then SVG minus 27. So they'll take this coming weekend off and then move on to Charlotte. Mentioned plenty of schemes, but time for another day, I guess. Oh wow, Eric Almirola driving a truck again. Interesting. The Buckle Up South Carolina 200 at Darlington for the trucks sees Ross Chastain lead the last 3 laps of the race after a battle with himself and Ty Majeski. They're late. Corey Heim had won both stages and led the most laps after starting second, but then had a wreck. There is part of the wreck that Dean Thompson triggered, his teammate. After the end of stage 2, starting in stage 3. So that was a lost opportunity for Heim to get another victory. But in the end, he gets a couple of playoff points, even though he finished 28th. Let's see. Chastain over Nick Sanchez, Ben Rhodes, defending series champion Christian Eckes, Ty Majeski, your top 5. Chase Purdy, Colby Howard, another top 10 for him. Taylor Gray, Ty Dillon, and Tanner Gray. A couple of randoms, Matt Mills, Lawless Allen, 11th and 12th. Timmy Hill, Friesen, Massey. Go and look at how many cars are on a lead lap. There's 20. Then you had Lane Riggs. Got Daniel Bailey, Curry, Daniel Dye. They were all 2 laps down. Then you had Ankrum, who had a throwback. Jack Wood had a throwback. Dean Thompson, who triggered the wreck. Raja Caruth, Matt Crafton, who mailed it in. And then Kyle Busch, who spun out and hit the fence and knocked himself out of the race basically immediately with Kyle. And it's a rare mistake on his part, but somebody who didn't make any mistakes or made less mistakes than anybody else is the Melon Man. And you think about Nice Motorsports right now, they're not as strong driver-wise by any stretch of the imagination. So it's got to be a good morale boost for the organization to put Ross Chastain back in a truck, and they can show they still have pace in those trucks when they have the right guy behind the wheel.
Yeah, and Ross Chastain, of course, had a lot of pace this weekend in the Truck Series leading up into this race. With, of course, his crew chief in this truck was his crew chief in 2019 when he had arguably his most successful season in the Truck Series and kind of led up to the opportunity as now with Trackhouse. And for Ross winning here late in the going, of course, off of the final restart, good result for him. First victory for him so far this year. So Ross gives that team a big morale boost, of course. I feel like he's the only one that really wins in the Nice cars for the most part, but he is a proven winner on this circuit, so it's proven to get it done, of course. But I think for me, of course, the most shocking result was Kyle Busch wrecking out of the race on lap 2 effectively and spinning out there, which maybe the pavement being green from all the rain, maybe that was part of it, getting loose off of turn 2. But I mean, the reason why it is because I decided to take the picks that we give every week on this show and put that into a parlay bet of $10, and Kyle spun out in lap 2 and that blew up. So I guess doesn't work out, and Kyle Busch probably the most reliable bet that you could put on in the a Truck Series race, and of course had the best odds going into it, but ends up not winning the race and not even making it to lap 10. So this is, I think, the fastest he's ever DNF'd into a race since he started his career back in 2003 in NASCAR. So it tells you how good he is and how reliable he is at finishing races and everything as well. So a rare mistake from him leading to very, very early exit there. But Corey Heim also was good in this race as well, and led the most laps, but finished 28th after wrecking out late in the going. So this probably was the most eventful race that we had this weekend, of course. But the late caution for the 91 having an accident, Jack Wood, that led to Ross Chastain being able to get his first win in the Truck Series in a while, and first NASCAR win of 2023. So non-contender in this series goes out here and gets the win. So good morale boost for him for sure. Maybe it helps on the Cup side with confidence. Not like he needs it. We know how he drives in the Cup Series, but for the team he drives for, Nice Motorsports, they definitely needed that for sure.
Yeah, and when you consider who their drivers are this year, Bailey Curry at least putting up a fight, but otherwise it's not so good. So shows they still have pace, like what they showed with Hocevar when he wasn't hitting other people. So we'll see how that goes, how many more races that Chastain can do in the truck, because of the limit that they have for on the Cup drivers racing in other series. The points heading into North Wilkesboro, you have 4 drivers that are locked in with wins. Eckes and Heim both have 2. Sanchez and Carruth have 1. Then you have Majeski, Taylor Gray, Tyler Anker, Matt Crafton, Tanner Gray, and then Ben Rhodes. Matt Crafton's plus 13, Tanner Gray plus 8, Ben Rhodes, the defending series champion, plus 5. Over Grant Enfinger, Daniel Dye's minus 20, and Friesen's minus 38. To go through this, so trying to look through. Kyle Busch, that was his last run of 2022, and it lasted 3 laps. Zane Smith's run 4 races this year. Then you have Yes, Sammy Smith, Corey LaJoy have run 1, Chastain's run 2, Chris Bell's run 1, so there you go. Let's see what happens with that when we preview the trucks for North Wilkesboro. They raced there last couple of years, or whatever. So, moving forward into the GSP Roundup. Or no, actually, we're going to talk about the tournament. So, I heard about it on the socials earlier in the day. 32 driver team, whatever bracket that'll go and take place during the Amazon TNT portion of the season in the summer, which will have Dale Jr. as one of their lead, commentators there, with a $1 million prize, which, I mean, $1 million you're giving at the All-Star Race here on Sunday. And when you look at the value of money these days, $1 million is cool. And I would definitely love $1 million. But it's not the same cachet, and it doesn't go as far in today's NASCAR as it did when they had, when even in the old days of the Winston, when they initially gave out $200,000 for the winner or whatever, back in those days, and Durwood saying, "I hope Rusty Walls chokes on that $200,000" and the like. So there will be $1 million on the line for whoever wins it. Head-to-head battles, a lot of it angled towards gambling and betting, like Josh mentioned, in terms of a parlay for Kyle Busch. Like, I think that's part of the angle. In-season tournaments, I think, are the new vogue thing after the NBA has been using it. I think the NHL has one. I don't remember offhand, but they don't have it in baseball, but they definitely do in basketball. They do have it in soccer or European football. But for me, it's yet another thing you have to keep track of. Is it really necessary? Are you really going to draw more people because you have a bracket? It's not like the NCAA tournament. You have the protagonists or the people that are out there every week. And I don't think it's going to make them drive any harder because it's $1 million. And I also don't think that we'd have to see what the schedule is, which they keep on mentioning, putting rumors out that they may put the schedule out soon. But I could take it or leave it. Josh, what do you say or feel about this in-season tournament?
I mean, it could be interesting to watch this play out, but it's a bunch of guys going for a cash prize. I mean, what's wrong with that to me? But I will agree, that $1 million for a race car driver doesn't really feel the same. Maybe to you and me. I mean, even for me, definitely would be nice, but it doesn't. Watching a bunch of rich race car drivers go at it for $1 million doesn't really do anything. Of course, maybe back in the 80s, $1 million was a big thing, but these guys have pretty good salaries now, where it's kind of down from what it was from the peak, but they still definitely make a lot of money. And NASCAR is the most, if you want to earn money in racing as a driver, it's definitely the one that's the most financially viable in terms of that. But I think that with money these days, maybe why not $2 million as a bonus, or $3 million or something, which definitely would make things a little bit more wild, or even like 5 million. So especially with TV contracts and all that stuff. So I don't really have a problem with it. Of course, born out of Denny Hamlin's idea last year on his podcast that he did with the Actions Detrimental Dirty Mo Media in-season bracket. So might make things more interesting in the summer, but I mean, it's also kind of overcomplicates things a little bit because you have this to worry about, and then you also have the real playoffs to worry about as well, along with stages and all this other stuff. So it's a good idea, but probably just over saturates things. And you have a 32 driver field in the this bracket, I think, which definitely is a lot of drivers to consider. I mean, that's like basically the whole field for the most part on some days. So we'll see how it goes, but I don't know how long this lasts. If anything, maybe it'll draw a couple of eyes to the TV. Especially if you're the gambling type and all that, it might make things interesting in that regard. But people trying to compare it to the Winston No-Bill 5 or the Winston Million, well, those were, and I mean, even to Dash for Cash, I mean, those are very select drivers going for it for a specific prize. And the Winston Million was supposed to highlight the 4 crown jewels in this sport, and then the Dash for Cash kind of highlights the driver, I feel like, every race. So I think it could work, but it's probably a little bit too much, and they just don't have enough, or they have too many drivers competing for it. But I don't really mind seeing people trying to race for some extra money, although I think it should be a little bit more. So I mean, it could work. And also, I think part of it, TNT, they might be losing the NBA rights after this season. Apparently, NBC might be returning to broadcasting the NBA, so I think TNT needs something to try to draw some more people back in to watching them, of course. So we'll see how that goes. Of course, if they do lose the NBA, I mean, that's kind of Dale Jr. He knows Charles Barkley, he knows Shaq, so that is a little bit of a loss of collaboration there. But I mean, for TNT, they need something like this to help garner interest, and of course Amazon Prime as well. They'll probably integrate some feature into Prime Video while you're watching the race to help people keep track of this competition. So might make things interesting for sure. But with how that plays out, we could see some things happen where whoever's in the bracket, they're trying to beat, they're trying to race each other for that, but then they also, maybe it has implications for if you have 2 drivers that are in it, like say like in this situation we had at Darlington this past weekend, Chris Buescher needs a win to make it into the playoffs, and then Tyler Reddick has a win already, he's in the playoffs, and they're also going for this bracket fighting for $1 million potentially, and Reddick takes him out and loses the race, and so does Chris Buescher. Well, Chris Buescher what if that's his only opportunity to win a race to make it into the playoffs? That takes him out, or another guy that has an opportunity and does something wild to make it into the playoffs, and then also try to win the bracket. So adds another layer of it, but maybe it's a little bit too much.
Yeah, I guess we're going to have to see what they say, more details as we go along with it and the execution, like you mentioned, with the adding graphics, because Amazon, with their football, they do that, and they have like specific feeds and stuff like that. So maybe there'll be some specific feeds, like a fantasy channel or something, or like key moment, kind of like a red zone thing, like so. There's plenty of stuff to come prior to their first race, which is probably, I think, what is it, in a year's time. So they have their lead analyst in Dale Jr., but they don't have anybody else there. And then you're trying to make this format with a playoff, and you have, like you mentioned, basically the entire field. There should be a limiting aspect of it, or there should be like play-ins, to get into the main draw. It's like challengers, essentially, for tennis, or pre-tournament qualifying on the PBA Tour, or trying to be a qualifier at a tennis tournament for anything, whether it's a main draw or for like a major and stuff like that. So we'll see how it all works out when it comes time for that. So undo, yeah. So the GSP roundup will start here. We will begin with IMSA at Laguna Seca. Porsche gets their 600th win, and Penske gets his 100th sports car win at WeatherTech Raceway for Nick Tandy and Matthew Jaminet, beating the 31 Whelen Engineering Cadillac by 5.764 seconds. Durrani and Aiken. Dane Cameron, Felipe Nasr gives Penske Porsche 2 out of the top 3. The number 40 Acura of Jordan Taylor, Louis Delatraz was 4th. Renger Van de Zandt and Sebastian Bourdais 5th. And the 10 car was 6th with Ricky Taylor Albuquerque, the 2 BMWs, and the 2 private Porsches rounded out the GTP cars. The GT Pro, the Lauren Heinrich and Sebastian Priaulx get the win, finish 11th overall over the Kirchhofer and Oliver Jarvis for Pfaff, and then Tom Milner, Nicky Katzberg in the Pratt Miller Corvette Racing number 3. Round out the podium there, Russell Ward and Philip Ellis for Windward Racing Mercedes. They finished first in the GTD category. Second was Patrick Gallagher, Robbie Foley for Turner Motorsports, and then Adelson and Elliott Skier for Wright Motorsports. They had a special scheme there. So that was the podium finishers for all 3 classes. Their schedule leading in their next race will be at Detroit, which with that race, I think it's limited to GTP and GTD Pro. So smaller field for, of course, the smaller track, which is the Detroit Grand Prix street circuit. WEC, the WEC, ran at Spa for the Spa 6 hour, and that's the last race before they lead into 24 hours of Le Mans. The Total Energies 6 hours of Spa saw the privateer Hertz Team Jota Sport number 12 of Will Stevens and Callum Ilott get the victory over the Porsche Penske Motorsports number 6. So Porsche won 2. Estra Lauderer Vantor, and then the number 50 Ferrari finished what is it? The Porsche Penske car lost by 12.3 seconds. Then they were separated by a minute between themselves and the Ferrari number 50. Ferrari also finishing fourth. Proton competition, Neil Yanni, Julian Andlauer finished fifth in class. The Toyotas sixth and seventh. AF Corsa Ferrari eighth. Alpine number 35 was in ninth. And the Peugeot was in 10th there. And then in GT D or whatever the hell, not GTD, that's IMSA. In LMGT3, the Manti EMA Racing number 91 gets the win over his teammate, the number 92, Pure X RX Racing. And then the Iron Lynx gets a top three finish there. United Autosports with their McLaren, and then the Iron Dames finishing fifth. That was, and they took up spots 16th through 20th. Heading to Le Mans, we'll get into the points and all closer to the Le Mans 24 hours. The MotoGP was Jorge Martin, who gets the double with the win in the sprint, and then the win itself in the French Grand Prix. Gonna go and so Jorge Martin by 0.446 seconds over Marc Marquez and 0.585 over Pecco Bagnaia. His teammate Enea Bastianini was fourth, Maverick Vinales fifth, Fabio Di Gianantonio was sixth, Morbidelli seventh, Brad Binder eighth, Alicia Spargaro ninth, and Alex Marquez rounds out the top 10. He had 6 bikes that didn't finish the race, 16 bikes that did, so Luca Marini was the only one that didn't score a point. In Moto 2, he had Sergio Garcia and Sergio Garcia over Ayagura, Alonso Lopez, your top 3. Joe Roberts back up to 4th. Somicat Chantro was 5th. Canet, Aldeguer, Alberlino, Arenas, and Guevara rounding out the top 10. The standings heading over to their next race in 2024. Jorge Martin, 38-point lead on Bagnaia, 33 on Marc Marquez and Enea Bastianini. And then, 81? So, like 50, just around 50 points behind their Maverick Vinales. And in Moto 2, Sergio Garcia with his win takes over the points lead by 7 over Joe Roberts. Aldeguer, Gura tied for 3rd, and Alonso Lopez in 5th. Then, so we got all that. MotoGP 2, and that Lamar. Go and make it smaller. MotoGP also announced that they're going to drop India because of financial problems. with the vendor, and they're going to go to Kazakhstan. They had already planned on doing that, but hadn't homologated the track and whatever other instances. So that's part of why they didn't end up going there. But in this case, with the situation of they were able to go and get that. Yeah, so let's move on to Formula E in Berlin. I'm going to try to rush this a little bit. And been kind of taking a lot of time. So the results of the races, Mini Meal, Sun Mini Meal, Berlin E Prix. In round 9, Nick Cassidy got the win, fastest lap, took the points lead. Jean-Eric Verne, Oliver Rowland, top 3. Mitch Evans, defending world champion, and Pascal Wehrlein, rounding out your top 10. In the second race, Antonio Felix da Costa started 10th, finished first. Nick Cassidy, fastest lap, finished second, started second. And Oliver Rowland from 16th, finished third. Wehrlein and Dennis, actually the world champion, my bad. Jake Dennis is the world champion. Qualified on pole, finished 5th. Points heading into next rounds. Nick Cassidy by 16 points, 22 over Oliver Rowland, 38 on Jake Dennis, and then 43 to Mitch Evans in 5th. The Rally Portugal, get into that. And WRC results and standings after Sebastian Ogier has won back-to-back rallies for Toyota. Toyota has won 4 out of the 5 races so far this year. Rally Portugal for Ogier gets the win by 7.9 seconds over Otanek. And the third place finisher was Thierry Neuville, who ended up being beat. And then you had Neuville's nearly over a minute behind there. Adrian Fourmeau, Danny Sordo rounding out your top 5, and Efren Evans was 6th. The championship standings, heading over next rounds, Thierry Neuville, 24-point lead. You then have 31 to Tanek, and then 39 to Fourmeau, 40 to Ogier, who's taken consecutive victories from other people. Katsuda, Rovanpera, Lappy, struggling Mickelson was 9th. Oliver Solberg in a Rally 2 car is in 10th. So interesting to see that. Indy next was at the IMS road course, and Abel Foster there. So Jacob Abel, and then Louis Foster on Saturday won the second race. Louis Foster, Jacob Abel, Kyle Collette, your top three. Nolan Siegel's trying to qualify for Indy 500. He finished 50. Orlando Rowe finished 6th and 7th. Yeah, you got some of these other guys. Never even heard of a bunch of them. Jamie Chadwick, after a podium on the Friday race, struggled to 16th. Yuvan Sundaramurthy ran every lap but was dead last, and somehow or another is behind Lindsey Brewer in points, and Jack William Miller. Means how bad it is there. In race 2, Louis Foster getting his first win of the season. Jacob Abel by 25 points leads Nolan Siegel, and Louis Foster, Kyle Collette, Miles Rowe round out your top 5. You have Collette, Rowe, and Orlando only separated by 5 points. We'll see how that all works itself out in race 2 and Indy Grand Prix race 1. Abel, Siegel, Chadwick, their top 3. Callum, Hedge, Miles Rowe ran out top 5. Gold, Foster, Brown, Bogle, Niles, Coolin, rounding out your top 10. And I mentioned the points already, so that's done. So the previews are brief previews for supercars at Perth. So Repco Supercars Championship at Perth for the Power Tools Super Sprint. The driver standings heading into that race weekend. Will Brown leads the points by 71 over Brock Feeney, his teammate. Chaz Moster third. Richie Stanaway, Matthew Payne round out the top 5. There's Will Davison in 9th. So 4 Fords in the top 10. Finally, both Penrite Mustangs have been up there. So we'll see the results of everything during the weekend. That's for supercars. So then F2 and F3 have been on hiatus for many years there. So on start to Emilia Romagna, the first race since middle of March with Melbourne at Imola. So then you have the standings heading into the race. Browning tied with Fornioli, Gabriel Mini in 3rd, Beganovic in 4th, and Arvin Lindblad 5th over Tramnitz, Mansell, and as such. Then in Formula 2, you had... I'm trying to get... get drivers... go and get the standings. Zane Maloney not willing to pay 15 points, or they're up 15 points, Maloney, over Paul Aaron, and then 21 over Dennis Hauger, Isaac Hadjar, Quishmini, and Enzo Fittipaldi are all well behind, trying to figure out what they need to do to get back up there. So we'll see how that all works out. They'll have back-to-back race weekends, Imola and Monte Carlo, before they take another break before Barcelona. So we'll see how that all goes. there. All right, so now it's time for previews and picks in terms of Formula One and the San Marino Grand Prix this weekend. You have teams that are bringing updates to the first European race of the year, Josh. We'll see what some of them, if they can improve. I was the first one to pick last week, so you get the first call on who's going to end up with the victories here at Imola.
Well, I mean, after a brief time away from the winner's podium, or at least the first place part of the podium, I think Max Verstappen returns to winning form, of course, at Imola. Second, I'm going to go with Charles Leclerc, and then third, I'm going to go with Lando Norris, following up his victory at Miami with third place here at Imola.
All right. Yeah, so for me, I'll go with Fish Lips as well, and I'll go Smooth Operator instead of Eclair, and Oscar Piastri instead of Norris, rounding out the podium. So behind Fish Lips, Sainz, and then Piastri. Those are our choices there. We'll go to Indy 500 qualifying. I wanted to go and find the Indy 500 entry list. And that's not what I wanted, but I wanted to go with something else. Yeah, there. So I'm trying to bring up the entry list for the Indianapolis 500. Forward Valor. Oh wow. I'm gonna send it over to you, Josh, just to go and talk about some of these drivers. 34 teams that are. You'll have 8 former winners attempting to qualify for this race, and 7 rookies, 13 U.S. drivers, 21 internationals from 13 different countries. And yeah, so that's interesting. 8 winners. I don't know what the maximum amount of winners has been in the history of one Indy 500, but 8 is definitely a high amount relative to the number of cars that start in this race. Josh, just let us know what you think on some of the drivers out there, people we should be looking at, and then in terms of who we should look at also for qualifying.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think for qualifying first coming up this upcoming weekend, I mean, I think you got to think about the Ganassi organization. Obviously, Alex Blow talked about him earlier when we were talking about the road courses. I think he had a good chance of getting this pole. And also, I think with Scott Dixon, always fast here, multiple times on the pole. So I think he has a good shot of winning here on the pole. Now you have Linus Lindquist, of course, Marcus Armstrong, rookies here in this series and in the organization. So a little bit harder for them, but they can't count them out as far as pace goes here. But obviously, Scott Dixon and Alex Blow, I think, probably 2 favorites to be on the pole and everything. So count out Will Power. I think Will Power's a good qualifier here as far as pole speeds go, but also it's going to be dependent on how good Newgarden is and how good Scott McLaughlin is. Of course, those two guys didn't qualify really well last year. Newgarden didn't qualify very well last year and ended up winning the race. So I think it's going to be interesting there. See how the Penske organization does in qualifying. Connor Daly always fast here. Marco Andretti is always fast. Last year, AJ Foyt Racing with Santino Ferrucci ended up being really good here, and now they have Penske support. So we'll see how they do here in this race or in the qualifying. Rosenquist been really fast with the 60 here as of late, so want to see how good he can be in this new ride. Of course, Elio Castroneves, his teammate there in the 06, coming back once again. So we'll see if the Michael Shank organization, what they can bring to the table this weekend in qualifying. McLaren, of course, Pato O'Ward, always fast here. Callum Ilott, of course, going to be his best opportunity in an Indy 500 attempt. So we'll see how he does. Rossi, former winner, qualified, made it to the final round of qualifying many times, has been fast since he started racing in IndyCar. And of course, everyone's looking how Kyle Larson is going to do here in qualifying. So qualifying for the first time in the Indy 500, of course, doing double duty with the All-Star Race, and then, of course, the double on the following weekend with the 500 and then the Coke 600 next Sunday. So for Larson, I think it's going to be interesting to see if he can crack qualify within the Fast 12, which would put his All-Star Day race possibly in doubt, depending on what time he's able to qualify at. So the opportunity for him to race here is huge, of course, but of course he has NASCAR priorities as well. So we'll see how well he's able to do qualifying this weekend. But I mean, those guys I think are always the highlights. I mean, of course, Ed Carpenter, Rinus VeeKay, of course, always two cars that are really good in qualifying. So I think that's pretty much who you can look at for competing for the Fast 12, the Fast 6 in qualifying for the Indy 500. But I think ultimately pole for the Indy 500 I think is going to go to Alex Palou. I'm going to pick him to win the pole. I think front row is a little bit harder to decide, but I will go with Pato O'Ward on front row as well. With I'm going to go with Scott Dixon also being on front row here. So that's who I'm going to go with for pole. Who goes home, I think, is the harder question because of who we have in the field this year. And basically the extra entry, if you take out Kyle Larson, this looks like a standard Indy 500 IndyCar series event, of course. So it's a little bit tougher to figure out who's on the entry list that could fail to qualify. But it's a pretty tough list to see. But I mean, maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say with Ed or a Dale Coyne racing car, but maybe Nolan Siegel, he's a rookie here in this series and everything. Maybe he fails to qualify, or maybe when the DRR. I mean, it's hard to say that a DRR car would fail to qualify, but Ryan Hunter-Reay, of course, or somebody like that, former champion, former winner, but could they end up, or could he end up falling out of the qualifying field on Saturday and Sunday? So it's going to be really interesting to watch out for. Of course, only one car failing that'll fail to make the field. So we thought there would be 35 entries here, 36 potentially, but only 34 this year. So it's only going to be drama for one spot. So we'll see what it looks like. But I mean, this is probably going to be as tight of a field as any for the Indy 500.
And Ryan Hunter-Reay in the past, of course, has been knocked out of this race and failed to make the show. Had to go and take over somebody else's ride. In terms of, for the Indy 500 qualifying, I mean, bringing up. No, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to zoom. They don't make it. Oh, what is that? Fit to width. Oh, yes. Now they made it like for an old man. I mentioned all the winners. We got Callum Ilott filling in the Arrow McLaren number 6. You mentioned Kiffin Simpson and Linus Lundqvist for Ganassi, Marcus Armstrong as well. So 3 of their 5 drivers are rookies in this race. You got Root Beer Floathead and his goofy teammate with the weird name. Then you have Rahal Letterman Lanigan. That's another one that's interesting because of Green Rahal looking like a caution cone. You have Pietro Fittipaldi. He has a commercial out. That would be pretty bad if he ended up going home. And Christian Lundgaard. You have the Dale Coyne. They have Nolan Siegel, as Josh mentioned, and then also Catherine Legg looking all sexy with ELF, which I think is makeup brand of some sort. You have Tom Blomqvist, who's struggled so far this year and since he's changed over to IndyCar. But they're a team that, of course, with Elio Castro-Neves, is a team that has won the Indianapolis 500. They have Andretti connections. So I guess the way we would look at it is if the Andretti cars are bad, then their customers would probably have a problem too. Takuma Sato coming back, driving for Rahal Letterman Lanigan, won this race for them a few years ago. I think his presence will help. I mean, there's probably certain fundamental things that they are not going to be able to change, but I think Takuma Sato just being there, how he can boost morale, his experience could help them avoid the ignominy of going home, having somebody go home. Larson, of course, with the weather is going to be the biggest thing for him, wanting to put it in the show and early and hopefully run a time that, of course, makes it into the top, from 10 to 30 range. Unless if he really has pace and he makes the fast 9 or fast 12, or I guess that's what it is. It was a fast 12 last year, but then so be it. But I think his angle is to try to make sure he can get back for practice on Saturday, even though he does have Kevin Harvick there, which we'll mention in a little bit there. But he wants to get the thing in the show solid and then probably fly back. And then if he has to go and qualify again, so be it. But I don't think he really cares one way or the other. Andretti Herta with Marco and Curb Agajanian. Wow, so you got Michael Andretti, Brian Herta, Marco Andretti, and then Curb Agajanian. So 5 different owners on that car. All those owners, and he's still not going to win the race. So, who do I pick as my front row? I'm going to say Scott Dixon gets another pole at Indianapolis. My middle of the front row will be. I'm gonna keep on going with Ganassi. You'll go with Palou in the middle of the front row, and then the outside of the front row could be surprising, but really it isn't because of where it is. I'm gonna go with Arenas VK on the outside of the front row. So I'll put that in there. Dixon, Palou, VK, front row. DNQ will be Stingray Rob for me because he sucks. And I mean, it's a stupid, his sponsor is just another, it's idiotic probably, and that doesn't help him either. He's already a bum, but then you add that to the mix. I mean, there are a lot of rookies. I think Nolan Siegel's definitely one that people are looking at. I saw a lot of people picking Pietro Fittipaldi. There were a couple of looks at the Dry Rainbow cars. I think a couple mentions of Tom Blomqvist. I mean, Catherine Legg had to basically hold on for dear life to make it into the show last year. And then now she's driving for a team which is theoretically worse. So who knows, maybe with her, the Atlantic Rail Lemon cars, you don't know what Andretti or Penske's going to bring to the table. A few years ago, the Penske's were all in trouble and willpower almost went to the house. So, but I do say even with the Penske help, Stingray Rob ends up being the guy that gets to go to church because he's not going to be in the Indianapolis 500. That's for Indy 500 qualifying. So we did that. Then let's move towards the Truck Series race there. So get that. Got through there. 34 cars. So we'll go with, I don't know where, I picked a bunch of different websites. That's right. So there you go. J-Ski, the right brand 250, right? So it sent me to,
yeah, it goes to Darlington right now.
Yeah. So that's a bad link. The entry list though have some interesting names out there. 38 for, what is it, 34 I believe. So yeah, they're 38 or 36. So two cars or trucks are gonna go home. Yeah, Brendan Queen, who's the late model standout, driving the Tricon number 1. Clayton Green, whoever that is. Sammy Smith driving the Spire number 7. Trey Hutchins making one of his limited starts. Hattori Racing Enterprises coming back with Eric Almirillo, with Richie Waters as a crew chief. That's a throwback name. Reum doesn't have anyone for a 22. Dawson Sutton making, he runs the Rackley War late model. He'll be making an appearance in a second truck. Willie Allen, the crew chief there. Oh, you got Ross Ross Chastain will make another start in the number 45 with sponsor of North Carolina Governor's Highway Safety Program. And then, Connor Jones again for ThorSport. Stephen Parsons with the Henderson Motorsports Food Country USA truck. Boy, he sucks. I don't know if that's the Jeff Hammond, but they have him as Jeffrey Hammond. So who knows? It probably is Jeff Hammond. Justin Carroll making one of his limited appearances. And that's that. So I mean it's a repave, so we don't know what's going to come of it. I know that with Cup they're going to have an option tire, but will it lay down rubber? Will it be something other than a one groove racetrack? I have a hard time believing that. It's going to be very track position centric, and qualifying is going to make a huge difference in this race compared to others, I guess. So in terms of who fails to qualify, I assume that the 90 would be one of those. And then I think the 04 doesn't run every week. I mean, the 14 would be another one that I would think would be a person that could go home. But in terms of who I pick to win, I'm picking Corey Heim. It's, to me, he's pissed off. He had a chance to win last week. He had the best truck. He goes out there and puts up a third win early in the season. My wild card pick, I mean, you really can't say Ross Chastain because he just won last week. I'll go with Stephen Parsons, the current spotter for Corey LaJoy. That's who I'll go with. So I pick trucks at North Wilkesboro, and Phil has Corey Heim to win, and Stephen Parsons wild card. All right, Josh, how about you?
I'm gonna go with Grant Enfinger to win this weekend, which would be kind of a long shot, but he's the guy that can get it done at North Wilkesboro. My wild card is gonna be Brendan Butterbean Queen from the late models here in the Cars Tour. He's done a good job in the Cars Tour, and one of the guys that Dale Jr. talks about a lot in the Cars Tour. So yeah, I think he'll do pretty good. Which number one Tricon Garage Car but finished second with Bubba Wallace last year at North Wilkesboro.
Interesting. There, for Bubba hadn't run trucks very much in recent years, but going out to Wilkesboro and having that opportunity there, pulling off the second place finish last year in that truck. We will move to the All-Star Race. Right now, there's 17 drivers entered. The only eligible driver that won't race, of course, is Shane Van Gisbergen, unfortunately. Yeah, because there was nobody to nobody who had a car. So, which I find interesting. But yeah, the entry list will start with the Open, though. The Open, you have Gumby Cindric, Austin Dillon, so Cindric, Dillon, Barry, Corey LaJoy, Gagson. It says he's ineligible for driver championship points. That can't be right. I think that's for Kaz Gralla, not for Gregson. Briscoe, Gralla, Harrison Burton, Bubba Wallace, Daniel Hemrick, Todd Gilliland, Ryan Preece, John Hunter Nemechek, Eric Jones, Alex Bowman, Justin Haley, Ty Gibbs, Timmy Hill, Zane Smith, and Carson Hocevar. Haley and Hocevar probably had the most creative and have been getting the most press from Fox in terms of creativeness with their plea to get the fan vote. But you look at some of the drivers that are in this race, anybody that has a connection to Dale Jr., you got Barry, you got Gagson, you have there, you got Hemrick to a lesser extent, but I'm trying to see who else. Eric, no, not Eric Jones. Bowman, and yeah, I think that's Bowman. To me, for whatever reason, I feel like there's like an Earnhardt thing that's gonna get him in as a fan vote. Even though he's been relatively all right, it's just typical Alex Bowman. But I'm gonna say Alex Bowman is my choice as the wild card. The drivers that will race their way into the All-Star race will be Darrell Wallace Jr. and Josh Berry. So those are my picks there. So Cup, All-Star, Open, DWJ and Barry, Advance, Bowman, Wild Card. How about you, Josh? What are your picks?
I'm going to say that Alex Bowman advances, and I'm going to say, I guess we can both pick, because I kind of find it hard to believe that Bubba Wallace doesn't get out of the Open, so it's really hard to pick against him, especially, with the field he's surrounded with, but I'm going to pick him as the other guy to advance, and I'm actually, for my fan vote, I will pick Carson Hocevar. I like his campaign that he's been doing on social media, and how these drivers, some of these lower tier drivers, have been campaigning for their entry into the All-Star race via fan vote, and I like what he's been able to do, and he even made some real good impressions of different drivers and personalities through NASCAR on his Twitter feed, if you saw that last week. So it was pretty creative by him, and other drivers have done creative things, but I liked his campaign video and content the most, so I will go with him as the fan vote.
Yeah, that's the one underlying feeling. If it isn't like Bowman or Bubba, if it goes bad or whatever, like I feel like it's gonna be either, because they've been talking about it for the last few weeks, it's either gonna be Haley or Carson Hocevar who make the show through the fan vote. But maybe they run fast enough. You look at Haley's had good moments when they were at Bristol. That was a top 10 car basically the entire day. So who knows? Maybe something shocking happens there. Go to the All-Star Race, and there's 17 cars as of now. This includes everybody that won in 2023 and everyone that's won so far in 2024. So that's Ross Chastain, Larson, Keselowski, who just got in, or I don't know, did they also include the champions too? I think it's anybody who's won a championship, but Kyle Busch, Elliott, yeah, 'cause Elliott's in it, and he just won. That's right. Hamlin, Blaney, Allmendinger. Yeah, Blaney hasn't won this year, won last year. Allmendinger won last year at the Roval. Buscher, Truex, Bell, Logano, Byron, McDowell, Tyler Reddick, Richard, and Daniel Suarez. Josh, you were able, I mean, it's up to you if you want me to go first, or because you went first on a couple of them, and then I went first for a couple here.
I can go first here. I mean,
all right.
Well, I'm gonna go with William Byron winning the All-Star race ultimately here. I almost want to pick Kyle Larson again, but I feel like his opportunity to even be in the race is a little iffy because of the Indy 500. I do think he'll make it into the top 10 or the top 12. I don't know about Fast 6, but or however it's going to work. I think he'll make it into the one of the final rounds of qualifying for Indy. So it's going to be a bit tougher for him to make it, and we'll see if he's able to, considering. But I'm going to go with William Byron winning here at the All-Star race. And given how it's a new pavement track, we have an option tire. I guess my wild card, I'm going to go with Michael McDowell.
No, there you go. Michael McDowell, wild card. Yeah, so McDowell it could stand up there on it, and with all with whatchamacall, the option tire, it might suit him, might suit his team, Travis Peterson, the bunch. For me, I did this in my pick'em pool. I wanted to go Larson again, but then I was worried about, same as you, with the availability, how long he's going to be at the track, if he's going to be able to get practice or not, and the like. I also think that they want to have him make the Fast 12, so based on that, he'll make it, and then he'll have to go and run over there, stay overnight, or whatever the heck. So I figured that Hamlin gets the victory in the All-Star race. He's won the All-Star race before, so Dennis Hamlin, winner. And my wild card, through nothing more than just a guess, is going to be AJ Allmendinger, because Kaulig has struggled most of the year. They have not. It's been Allmendinger wild card. Yeah, so there's nothing that tells us that they're going to go and do anything, but why not? Same kind of thing. He's somebody who's familiar with having two different compounds of tires. It's a new racetrack, so it may actually suit road racers because of how smooth it is with the transitions and so we'll see how that all goes. So those are my choices, and we'll move forward. Josh will let us know what's going on in the world of iRacing and gaming in the sim segment. What's going on with that, Josh?
Yeah, of course. Last week, ran a couple of races, Formula 4s in the rookie class, ran at Alton Park Circuit, and actually won one on accident, really. I mean, well, not on accident, but the leaders took themselves out, and then I was in third and many seconds back, and just held on for that. So I actually held on for one. So kind of cool to get one of those. So that was kind of nice there. As far as the rest of the week, of course, I got the rookie Formula Fords again at Laguna Seca, so it's another good track for me there. And of course, the other tracks, other series that we can race in, I think the non-rookie Formula Fords at Imola, scattered showers, 65% chance of rain there. The sports cars this week got MX5s at Tsukuba Circuit, Toyota GR Cup at Snetterton Circuit, GT Sprint, at Daytona, Brands Hatch Circuit for the production cars, so that might be fun there. Homestead Road Course in the Global Fanatec Challenge, the iRacing Weekly Challenge in the Global MX5 Cup at Daytona, so that should be interesting there. Got the Mustang Challenge also at Brands Hatch there, Indianapolis Road Course for the iRacing IMSA series, so that should be interesting there. And then the GT4s at Laguna Seca, so suppose they're mimicking the race that just happened there this past weekend, of course. And then, of course, ovals now in the thick of it. Well, I guess NASCAR is a little bit split. You got between the iRacing NASCAR series at North Wilkesboro with Truck and Cup, and then you have Xfinity at Road America for some reason, but I suppose they'll be just as wild, probably wilder than North Wilkesboro. We'll see if I do that, because I don't know, I'm like short track, the idea of short track racing, but the implementation and the execution of short track racing on iRacing is a lot of times frustrating, especially in the NASCAR iRacing series. A lot of yellows and cautions and incidents that happen and stuff like that. The IndyCar Oval Series at Twin Ring Motegi this week. And then, of course, next week, the following week at the Indianapolis 500. So, got that there. Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Of course, the iRacing Series, Indianapolis 500, always important. So, be doing a lot of prep for that as always, for that, as that's coming up. I'm trying to see if I can find, I guess they haven't created the event because it's not for a few more weeks now, but yeah, that's coming up soon, so getting ready for that. And then the 87s this week at Watkins Glen there, so that should be interesting as well. So yeah, I think, yeah, the IndyCar fixed oval. There's two IndyCar series this week, because you have the fixed oval series that's at Phoenix, and then you have the open oval, I guess, oval setup series that's at Twin Ring Motegi for some reason this week. Well, get ready for the Indianapolis 500 there. So as I go to the IndyCar series, yeah, this is the Class B series, and then this week is Motegi, and then next week is Open Wheel Oval. So it's only a short race, only 20 laps or 30 laps there, so that should be fun. So there's definitely a lot of time, a lot of preparation for the Indy 500. Definitely gonna have a lot of opportunities throughout the iRacing server to be able to do this, of course, and definitely gonna have to spend a lot of seat time to be able to do that, and be able to compete and hopefully get another one. So we'll see about that. Also, Coke 600 is coming up, so maybe do the double there. I mean, it won't be a double because there won't be an iRacing Indy 500 and a iRacing Coke 600 held on the same day. I don't know if iRacing is able to even do that, so because there'd be a lot of demand on their servers, but certainly you can compete in one event one week and then the next week compete in the other, so a little bit of a double there. So definitely looking forward to all of that as we get closer to Motorsports Christmas with the Monaco F1 Grand Prix and Indy 500 and Coke 600 in 2 Sundays from now, so Memorial Day weekend. So that's all I got for the sim racing stuff this week. Of course, as always, closing out the deal here. Twitter at JP Huffine, and go on there and see all my stuff and everything I have thoughts about racing and other things. NFL schedule release on Wednesday, so we'll see what the schedule looks like. They've already announced that the Chiefs and the Ravens rematch of the AFC Championship game is going to be the first game of the year for the season opener, the annual Thursday night game in September. Heard rumors that the Jaguars and the Lions are playing on Thanksgiving, which I hope doesn't happen, so the whole country doesn't have to see the Jaguars play there, because they always don't. I feel like they never do well in primetime games, but we'll see how that goes. But that's on Wednesday, so I'll definitely be talking about that. Schedule release videos and schedule stuff, on there as well. So the Twitch stream, which preparation for the Indy 500 and everything else at twitch.tv/usailor2, and then the YouTube streams at Gripster Podcast episodes all up there, and go and like and subscribe to our page. So that's it for me this week. Of course, glad to be able to do it and everything, and let you close out the rest of the show.
Yep. Thank you as always, man, for being here and picking me up when I'm not making any sense, and also with your great insight and analysis. For me, you can find me at PGMatthew28 on Twitter. You can find me at PhilipGMatthew28 on Instagram. At GripstripPod on Twitter we have as well. You can find audio through Podbean, but then also gets distributed through on YouTube as well. So you can get either the video feed that Josh puts out or the audio feed. Either way you can get it. So you can listen to the show through YouTube. You can listen to the show basically anywhere you hear podcasts. You can get the Gripster Podcast. And we'll be back for episode 221 next week of the GSP as the lead up continues to the greatest day in motorsports. And we'll talk about who's in the show, who isn't at the Indianapolis 500. We'll have an All-Star Race winner and much more. We'll talk all about that. We'll talk about NFL schedule too, probably. And whatever else is going on in the world of racing, we'll talk about on the Gripster Podcast. So for Josh, I'm Phil. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.